Hello and welcome to Wired Series 2. In today's podcast we will be talking to John Ware, the recently appointed General Manager for BT RedCare Fire and Security. John is responsible for the RedCare Fire and Security portfolio offering from BT. As General Manager, John is responsible for the end-to-end business. In particular, he has been brought in to re-establish and re-energise the RedCare brand. John has been with BT for nearly 30 years, with a career spanning a variety of roles including broadcast and satellite services, managed solutions, and more recently, his appointment as the new GM for BT's RedCare Fire and Security products. Thank you very much for joining us today, John. We'd like to ask you some questions about the BT RedCare arm of the business. And first of all, perhaps you'd like to give us a little bit of history about BT in the marketplace. People recognise it as a brand, but what exactly is the BT RedCare arm of the business?
Okay, RedCare is a product that's been about, or a brand that's been about for almost 30 years now. We were one of the first, if not the first, in the alarm monitoring industry. Way back 30 years ago or so, and we actually still have some products out there that have been there in the field 27, 28 years.
Crikey.
And have never gone wrong yet.
Excellent.
So that's the kind of quality of product that we're providing here. Essentially, RedCare is just a piece of plastic with a load of electronics on it that fits inside an alarm monitoring panel. And it enables you to connect the alarm to an alarm receiving centre. So instead of it being just a bells only type operation, it means that your alarm is monitored constantly 24/7. And obviously that enables the emergency services to be contacted if there's a problem. And particularly in this day and age, as more costs are being cut from those emergency services, they're having to contain and restrict what they can react on.
Yes.
And so what we find is, in different parts of the country, the fire brigade will have different policies for when they come out.
Absolutely, yeah.
The police in particular, now, if an alarm goes off, even if you've got CCTV and you can show them what's happening, they still won't come out unless there's either someone there or an alarm monitoring centre is enabling that alarm to be
verified.
Verified.
Sure.
So what we're seeing really is that as people clearly have got a lot of assets if they're running a business, and even at home, they've got their personal belongings, their personal safety and so on, really for a relatively small cost of having that alarm monitored by products such as RedCare, means that there's that peace of mind that your future, your livelihood, your safety is well looked after.
Absolutely. No, I think that all makes complete sense. And how do BT work alongside industry installers and maintainers, and then clients or the end users of your products?
Yeah, we have a very good relationship with many of the ARCs across the country. We deal with about over 80 of different ARCs in various parts of the geographically. But it's certainly something which I'm hoping to build on in terms of those relationships, because I think relationships at the end of the day are key to many a business growth and opportunity. And equally the installers. I think we deal something with around 3,000 installers across the country, and that ranges from a man in a white van through to nationwide installers as well. And so you have this effect where the ARCs deal with the installers deal with the end users are often driven to choose a particular product or an alarm receiving system as opposed to say bells only by the industry bodies, by insurance companies saying this would reduce your premiums, or the risk involved if we're dealing with say local councils is to have a monitored alarm, because that way, as I said previously, the emergency services will react to it because they know it's actually a true alarm that's going off.
It's
not
genuine.
A false alarm. It's genuine. And so when you think of the relative costs associated with that, it's quite small. So what we're doing is trying to work and build relationships with the alarm receiving companies, with the installation companies, to work together to get the message out there to the end users that really this is a relatively small investment to make to safeguard your property, your well-being, your assets.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. And what are the latest BT RedCare products that are available? And briefly, how are they improved in comparison to some of the older products, such as the RedCare Classic?
Yeah. We recently launched 2 new products, Secure Fire and Secure Fire IP.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard a lot about IP.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new thing. We launched those 2 products in January, and they are unique in the marketplace at the moment because they're third-party certified for both intruder and fire.
Mm-hmm.
Most products are either designed for the fire market or the intruder market, but not both. These do both. So from an installation perspective, it reduces the costs involved because there's only one alarm monitoring system to install and not 2. Or alternatively, you're avoiding that compromise situation where an installer might provide one that does both, but shouldn't really be doing that because it's not been certified, and that can have insurance consequences down the line. So those are the 2 new products that we've just recently launched. And I suppose in terms of how does it compare to Classic? Classic is more the higher end, so for small businesses, medium-sized businesses and that sort of thing, they more often go for the sort of Classic and the Classic GSM. They are slightly more expensive. They're the sort of robust products that we talked about earlier that have lasted, 27 years. We've had some in the field. They are, unique to RedCare, unique to the BT sort of brand as well. And these are the sort of things that we're looking at in terms of the next generation as well. We've moved into the IP market, which is where everything's going. We're looking forward into the next 10 years, 20 years and so on. How do we move the Classic range? How do we move the Secure range into whatever the next generation is? Also taking into account things like smart security. More and more people now, they want to see on their smartphone CCTV coverage. They want to be able to monitor gas as well as
and that's where the IP comes in with the online internet connection.
Everything is going through IP now. So that's certainly the future, but even products like Classic, Classic it's just such a robust thing. It operates on the copper wire that sits in the ground. So even though BT is rolling out fibre, that makes no difference because the fibre goes to the green cabinet and it's copper wire into the premise or the home. So Classic works. It's such a robust thing that
it stood the test of time.
Yeah, and it's here for another decade.
Can you explain very briefly what GSM is to our listeners as well?
Yeah, GSM, many of these alarms now are what we call dual monitored in some way. So if the primary path goes down for some reason or other, then a secondary path kicks in. GSM is just a form of mobile telephony really that it works over. So you'll hear terminology like 3G, 4G, roaming SIM, GSM, GPRS. Fundamentally it's all the same sort of thing. It's cellular data transfer of information. So that if you've got say a Classic GSM and something was to happen to that telephone line, then the GSM will kick in. The great thing about Classic is you don't actually, it's not reliant on a telephone line as such, in the sense that if you were using the telephone line, the alarm is still working.
Yes.
Many competitor products, if you use a phone line,
it affects the line.
Cuts off.
Sure.
But yeah, with the beauty of things like GSM or roaming SIMs and 3G and 4G and all this sort of stuff, is that if there is a problem with the primary path, be that IP, be that telephone line or whatever it happens to be, the secondary path kicks in.
Yeah. You've got that backup.
And that you've got that backup, and it's just that peace of mind, But with all these alarm systems, you hear about grades, for example, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. All that means is the higher the grade, the more the alarm is being constantly pinged. And the point of the pinging is to make sure the alarm is always operational. And obviously with the dual path system, if the first path doesn't work through the ping, the secondary path kicks in and can establish what's wrong with the first path.
Right.
So
yes.
It is a very intelligent sort of system.
Excellent. So finally, what is the benefit of using a BT approved installer, do you think?
Well, BT obviously has a very substantial brand in the market, obviously primarily telecommunications in more recent times, television as well. And what we see is a convergence across the market really. BT is particularly big at the moment in the world of cyber security. And with RedCare, what you're getting is an alarm monitoring system backed up by one of the largest, strongest telecommunication companies in the world, with a huge research and development budget for the future, sort of thing. So with installers, you are inviting a company into your home or into your premises with all your assets and your things. You want to be able to trust them. And I think people do in general trust a name like BT. So if BT RedCare is associating itself with an installer, that gives a degree of comfort, I think, to end users, that actually you've got a professional set of companies coming into your home or into your business, installing an alarm system that's going to look after the assets that they would have seen when installing them. And it's going to be monitored 24/7, and it's going to work. It's going to be backed by one of the largest companies in the country, in the world, comes to that. And so that's really where the approved installer scheme comes about. It's about BT's lending its brand to a third-party company, and therefore you can trust them.
Excellent. Well, that's all we've got time for today, so I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you would like to find out more about BT RedCare, please visit www.redcare.bt.com or call 0800 800 628. You can email redcare@bt.com or follow on Twitter @BT RedCare. You've been listening to Wired.